The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. So thrilled to be here with you on this Thursday morning. We've got so much to talk about and a fabulous guest to end the day and the week with. I know you're going to be just absolutely thrilled to spend some more time with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, who's going to be with us in the second hour. But I'm so happy to be here with you. We're going to be live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. What can we be doing, whatever role we play in this big, beautiful spectrum community, what can we be doing to affect change in a child's life and get to progress? That's really what it's all about, right? And not just a child. You know, I have a tendency to say that because I'm coming from the point of view of being a parent of, and he's not going to like it if I call him a child much longer. He just turned 11. But this is really about everybody who's on the spectrum, whether it's an infant, a toddler, a preschooler, somebody who is going to elementary school, teenagers, preteens, adults, right? We're looking to make progress for everybody in this field. And as I said, whether you're a parent, teacher, practitioner, or you yourself are on the autism spectrum, we want to be here for you as a resource to help you to get to the support and the services and the information that's going to make a difference for you and help you to get further at what you're trying to achieve. We know it's not one size fits all. We're absolutely 100% sure of that everyone in this community is individual. They need different things. They need a different combo platter of different things. And so we want to help you and support you in getting what you need. I always like to start this show by telling you that your input here is so crucial and important to what we're trying to do. This whole show is interactive. We want to hear from you. Emily's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate, some of the different ways that you can be watching the show. While she's doing that, I'll remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. So much to do on that page, not the least of which is watching the live show if you choose to. But you can also watch recorded shows there. On that computer screen, if you click on the triangle, it'll show you either the live show or the most recently recorded live show. But up in the corner of that screen is a button that's for playlists, and you can go through and scroll through and pick a show that you'd like to watch, right? Because you get to be the captain of your own ship. You can also, by the way, check out our blog while you're there. And there is also on the chalkboard, there is a link that says, on the whiteboard, it's not a chalkboard anymore. What generation am I from? Showing my age. On the whiteboard, there's a link that says, join our mailing list. And I got to tell you, there's so many good things coming down the pike on our mailing list. We encourage you to sign up because we're finding ways to save you money that are going to involve our newsletter. We're going to be able to hook you up with some coupons and some opportunities. So please participate and sign up for our mailing list. Now, to the side of the computer screen there that plays the show, there are some white boxes. Those are the live feature. You can put your cursor there no matter what time of day or night, wherever you are in the world. Put your cursor in the box that says your question, start typing, hit enter, and it will be sent immediately to my screen. And we can talk sometimes in real time. If you're watching at a time when we're not live, it'll save it until I come back in. But it's completely free, and you don't have to log in. It's completely anonymous. We're not taking any information for you. No one's asking for a credit card to be on file, right? Totally free, totally instant. I hate it when somebody says, would you like more information about this? And I click on the button, yes, I want to know more about that. Well, you're only 7 steps away. Fill out this form. Who has time? right? So this is pretty instantaneous. It takes a couple of minutes for the message to hit a satellite and get to me. So ask your questions early when we have experts here, but it is a way for us to have a conversation. And I really enjoy that. You guys elevate what we talk about, and you help steer the conversation, if not steer it completely. I thoroughly enjoy that. Which leads me to my next point. I always start out the show saying we have a lot of experts that are here on the show and that join us from time to time. I am not one of them. Let's all remember that. I'm a parent and I'm a former teacher. My son was diagnosed at the age of 2.5 with autism. As I said, he just turned 11 and he is the light of my life, right? And I never forget how lucky I have been, because at the right time, we got the right help, quality ABA therapy in the right amount. I'm incredibly grateful for that, and I have a lot to pay forward. So I want to help you to get as lucky as I got by giving you resources that will help you to do what you need to do so that you can see the progress that is owed to your family and to you. So take advantage of that. Put me to work. Tell me this is what I need information about. Be as specific as possible about where you live, because usually that's the first question. I wish that, and I hope, and I dream that someday it will be a situation where we can say, you know, everybody has this, everybody is entitled to, well, everybody is entitled to, but everybody already has this. You can get this, and this is the way you go about it. But unfortunately, if you live in New Jersey, it's different than if you live in Kansas, and it's different if you live in India, right? So usually, one of the first questions I usually ask you guys is, where are you writing to us from? And I don't mean your street address, right? I don't need to have that information. But if you're living just outside Cleveland, I'm going to be able to hook you up with different resources than if you're living just outside Bangor, Maine, right? Okay, so please participate with us, though, and remember that I like to be your legs and your ears and your eyes in the autism community, but I'm not an expert. But I'll bring you experts. I'll hook you up with experts. Deal? Sounds good. Okay, we like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to put it in terms that we might understand if we didn't know anything about autism, if we didn't go to college to get a master's degree in psychology, right? Because we need to know how these things affect us. This journey, the autism journey, is so filled with jargon, and we can rail against it, and heaven knows I did. I really did. But I think it's much quicker and we're much more effective when we make friends with it. So we give you first the word of the phrase or the acronym. We give you the actual definition, which frequently we like to make fun of because sometimes they're more filled with jargon and it becomes an endless pit of despair. And then we'll give you a working definition, which hopefully puts it in a term. It puts it in a way that you can say, hey, that's why this is how this affects me. This is why this is important to my day. This is how I can use this to my benefit, right? Okay, so today's phrase is symbolic play. Now, I don't know about you, but the first time I started hearing all the different names for play, I was like, really? Do we really have to take it to that point? But the fact of the matter is that when our kids aren't doing something, sometimes it's so minute and specific that if we can fix that little minute specific thing, it opens up a whole world for them. So we have to know what it is we're talking about before we can target that little specific minute thing. Okay, so symbolic play, what is it? Our actual definition is endowing objects with other qualities to play with them in socially relevant and appropriate ways. Talk about making it sound like a yawn fest, right? Oh, doesn't that sound like fun? Endowing objects with other qualities to play with them in socially relevant and appropriate ways. Don't you just want to go up to a 4-year-old and say, wouldn't you like to do this? And they're going to look at you like you're completely out of your head. All right, so let's pare it down into our working definition. Symbolic play is using imagination to turn an object into a functional toy. Now, if you recall on Tuesday, our jargon for that day was functional pretend play. And we talked about all those toys in the toy aisle that are kind of laughable, but kind of fun. We're all sort of attracted to them, where you go in and they've got, the pretend kitchens and they've got the pretend vacuum cleaners, and it's sort of like a scaled down version of the real thing, and they've got all the pretend food. You put a group of adults in a room with pretend food, and we all want to play with it to a certain extent, right? So that's the functional pretend play. It's the stuff that looks like it's real. It's all very functional. It's something you're going to use, and it's this representation, and the kids can play with it. We talked about why it's so important to give kids functional pretend play time, give them functional pretend play toys, can work on so many things with that. But then there's a next level, because if we're trying to get to creativity and for children to be able to use their imaginations, then we want to at some point get to symbolic play. So imagine that, we go down the functional pretend play aisle and we decide to get the child a functional pretend play broom. So it's a shorter broom, but it looks a lot like the one that mom or dad uses in the kitchen to sweep up. And the child gets the broom, and they start doing the motion of the broom. They're modeling the behavior they've seen their parents doing. It's good physically, it's good socially that they're learning how to do this, then they're modeling the behavior. All good lessons, right? We kind of laugh at it sometimes and go, this is play. They're practicing using a broom. It is, though. It is play. Because they're pretending that they're an adult. So if we were going to take it to symbolic play, what we would do is give the child something that's not a broom and encourage them to use the broom in the way you might use a broom. So maybe we give them a stick and we say, oh, I'm going to be sweeping the kitchen and I've got a stick. And so we're endowing the stick with the qualities the broom would have. We're using it in a way that it makes it look like it's a broom. Or maybe, we're pretending that we're a witch, and we put our leg over it, we straddle the broom because we're going to fly around the room and we're going to play Quidditch or whatever it is that we're going to play. So that's what symbolic play is. You still got something that's kind of like a placeholder, but we're going to pretend that it has different features than what it really has. So, and this, I'll tell you what, this comes in so handy for parents when you're stuck someplace and you didn't bring your bag of toys. Work on symbolic play, because what do you have at your disposal? I mean, I'm looking at my desk and here I've got my phone. And depending on what the child's into, right, I can take this phone and this phone can become a car. And I can be going, and get the child to play with this as if it's a car. Now, for a girl, it might be something else entirely. But I don't want to be sexist. Girls like cars too. But we're going to endow this with different qualities. I remember when my sister's kids were little, and I didn't quite get it yet. I was still very young, and I didn't think when I was going to take them someplace to bring a bag of toys, right? So I was always caught short someplace. And I remember once being in a restaurant with them, and I find this kind of play just so much fun. But I remember being in a restaurant with them, and they were bored, and the food wasn't coming, and I didn't have anything for them to play with. And so they had just learned cards. And so we took napkins, and we tore them into little pieces to be cards, and we had crayons, and they were making them into a deck of cards, and then we played Crazy Eights with the little napkin pieces that we had turned into a representation of cards. They still talk about that. Do you remember when we made the napkins into a deck of cards? And I know that those are neurotypical kids, but the truth of the matter is that we need this level of play for our kids on the autism spectrum, because it helps them to think outside the box, to be more flexible with the things that they do. If we can get a child to be able to look at a phone and say, this phone can be a car, this phone, we can pretend it's a boomerang, we can do all kinds of things with this phone, the child, and if we can get them to enjoy that, they're going to be more flexible in their thinking, which is going to help them with problem solving. It's going to help them with critical thinking. It's going to help them with cognition, with executive functions. And imagine how this skill transfers to being an adult. We've all met adults who, they're asked to do something, a task, and they go, okay, how do I do that? And somebody shows them how to do it, and they meet a roadblock, right? And they go, well, I can't do it, because I've met that roadblock and I was asked to do this thing, and this is the way in which you do this. And if they are taught ever to be creative, think outside the box, use things in different ways, then they can get around obstacles. What a great great gift to give our kids on the autism spectrum who frequently have a hard time working on flexibility. What a great way to start it, because this is a safe environment in which, this is why play is just so important, you guys, because it's a safe environment in which to work on these things. Because if you can't turn this into a car, what's at stake? Right? So we can work on this, and sometimes we can get to it so much easier. Really is a wonderful thing to do. So symbolic play, so important. And if you're looking at your child right now, and I know so many of you have written in and said you want to talk about imagination and how we build creativity, and we are going to be talking about that today, especially with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. But this is a great place to start. I want to encourage you. There's a whole section, there's a whole curriculum in skills that's just about play, and it breaks it down into all the different types of play, including symbolic play and functional pretend play and imaginative play and arts and crafts play and all of the socio-dramatic play, all of these different areas. Because I think it's all too easy for us to look at play and go, oh, they're either playing or they're not. But if you can get in and say, here's where we have a deficit in this area, here's a lesson to strengthen that, tremendous, tremendous gift we give our kids. Don't poo-poo the play, right? Play is essential to a happy, long life, especially for the boys, because boys continue to, I've heard Dr. Grant Boucher say this before, boys continue to value their toys. Their toys just get a little bit more electronic as time goes by. And men still, it's still a very big part of their lives, play. I think that we women need to take a little bit of a note on that. We need to do more play as well. All right, so there's symbolic play. I went on a little bit long about that, but I get excited about it. It's fun, and it's so good for the kids. So good for the kids. All right, even if you have a teenager, here I keep going, even if you have a teenager and you're saying all they do is one thing, you can work on these things with a teenager. All right, we're moving on. We always have a question of the day, and this gets right to the heart of it. We want you to take a look at the individual in your life and ask yourself, how do they demonstrate imagination? Are they in any way taking something and making it symbolic? Are they in any way using their imagination? And don't panic if the answer is no, but do write in and tell us if there is some way that your child is demonstrating their imagination, because it may be something that somebody else hasn't thought about. We're going to have time in a little while to check in with what your answers are. Okay, and we have a lot going on this week, but we have a topic of the week, as always. Our topic, which goes right hand in hand with talking about play. This entire week we're talking about having fun. For a lot of you, this is the beginning of summer, and your kids are out of school. This can bring on panic because you might have less services during this time, but it is important that we find the way to have fun. And in just a little while, we're going to tear it down a little bit, and I'm going to give you some of my suggestions for ways that we go about having fun while we're doing our intervention, while we're participating in therapy, how we use the therapy to have fun, and we use the fun to help the therapy. It's a very powerful thing. Some of the different things that we're going to be discussing this morning, we've got some autism news for you. We, of course, are going to have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, who's here to talk about science and the science beat. And in particular, today with Dr. Tarbox, we're going to ask him about how do we build towards creativity? How do we shore up those skills so that our children are using their imagination? And then we will have some time for answering your questions and taking a look at what you guys have written in for the answer to the question of the day. So stick with us. We've got a lot to do.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. Today I have a special guest with me. What the heck? She's missing!
Here I am!
And what's your name?
Mackenzie.
And what are we doing today?
Making sidewalk paint.
And how do we do that?
I have no idea.
So, the materials we'll be needing
are 2 cups of cornstarch, 1 cup of cold water, 4.5 cups of boiling water. Be careful. A mixing bowl, a spoon, markup, and food coloring.
gonna take our 2 cups of cornstarch and put it in the big bowl.
Yes.
Can you do that for me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's all right, I'll help you. Step 2, you're gonna put the cold water into the bowl.
Cold water into the bowl.
Good job. Step 3, we're gonna stir it with a big spoon. Good job. You're gonna keep stirring it until it's all the way mixed together. So the next step is adding the boiling water. That's a little dangerous for her, so I'll be doing it myself, 1 cup at a time, stirring it together. You're gonna keep an eye on me?
Yes.
So once we're done stirring the cornstarch water, we're gonna start making our dyed paste. So what are we gonna do?
We're gonna put in the dye.
Okay.
And we're gonna put it in the sparkles.
All right, let's do it. I'll move this out of the way. All right, it's all you, Mackenzie. So the more food coloring you use, the brighter it's gonna be.
Ooh.
So let's put the sparkles in.
Now we're gonna put the cornstarch in the jar.
All right, do you wanna stir that up?
It looks pretty. We're gonna make a few more colors and we're gonna go pan side.
See all the colors in the sky tonight.
Are you excited?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Love is the truest state of mind. Now can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me flying by your side?
And there, ladies and gentlemen, is a perfect example of something you can do to have fun. This entire week we've said that our focus is going to be about having fun and finding ways to do that, even though we've got some other stuff going on, right? Stuff that isn't in everybody else's ballpark. That's just the truth. That's the beginning and the end of the conversation when you're dealing with somebody in the family who is on the autism spectrum, and especially in the beginning as you're starting your intervention and you've got a lot of things to work on and maybe there's some challenging behavior, right? I don't know about the rest of you, but certainly when my son was little, we started to isolate. I stopped going out because I was afraid of what he was going to do and how I was going to be able to handle it or not be able to handle it, and how people would look at us, how they would look at him. I was telling my husband the other day about being in a store. He didn't remember this, although we had talked about it at the time. We went into a store and my son was so little enough that he was sitting in the front of the shopping cart and he was having a difficult day, but it was by no means not his worst day, right? But I was at the checkout and he was giving me a little bit of grief, so I was feeling stress. And there was a gentleman behind me with his shopping cart, and the checker talking to the guy behind me pointed to my son and said, "Yes, this is why I chose never to have children." And everything that made me feel in that moment. And I was so upset and hurt and overwhelmed in the moment that I didn't say or do anything. But I remember going home and crying in the car on the way home about, you know, really? And the thing that bothered me the most was that he said it in front of my son as if he shouldn't be here. It just upset me. But I called the store and I said, somebody needs to talk to that man. Somebody needs to have a conversation with him because I don't appreciate that. I said my son was just diagnosed with autism and I'm sure he didn't mean it that way, but, you know, we can't have that. And I'll tell you, you know, so we dealt with it in that way, but it made me not want to go out. And there were so many little itty-bitty things like that it just built and built and built. And so we didn't do as much. Now, I got to the point where it was so bad that we had to have intervention. And I've talked before on the show that I became agoraphobic and that I got help. Thank goodness I got help. And thank goodness that I have the husband that I did that supported me in getting help. And I did. And one of the things I learned from that was how crucial and important it is for us to lean in to our support and to have some fun when doing it. Once I was feeling better, we had a birthday party for my son, and all of our friends who hadn't seen me in like a year came to that party, and it was a little bit hard for me, but in the end, I said, boy, these are the things we remember. These are the things that we take with us forever. And, later on, when you talk about, oh, we did this intervention for autism and it was tough, right? And it was tough and it was hard and we faced all these different obstacles. You'll remember that as, there'll be some distinct things that you'll remember, and there will be other things that will blurry. And the things that you will remember are the moments of triumph, the moments of joy, and when you made sure that you had fun. So let's talk about logistically how you make that happen. We talked a little bit with Vince Redmond yesterday, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist. And if you didn't see that, you can go back and watch that. A really great interview with him about how important it is to have fun and how it's important for the whole family. Because when one person in the family has autism, it affects everyone, right? We're all very painfully aware of that. If you have other kids who aren't on the spectrum, it affects them. So, and he was saying how crucial and essential it is for absolutely everybody. Talk about inclusion. We need to include everybody in the having fun. So let's break it down a little bit in terms of, if we know it's important, we understand why we want to do it, how are we going to do it? And, we always like to say here that it's important to schedule and plan. We have to have a sense of humor about it. We have to be willing to plan and then throw our hands up in the air and go, well, that didn't work, right? But you know what they say about, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So we have to schedule some fun time. But here's the important little asterisk to this, that make sure that you're scheduling things that are tiny and don't require a whole bunch of work, and that can happen today, that can happen in 5 minutes and don't cost any money. And then also make sure that you make some bigger plans that maybe take a little bit more time. So maybe it's that vacation that you go one day and see family members, or you go to the amusement park that's close to you, right? I would consider that a bigger thing. If you're talking about going on a 5-day vacation and getting on a plane and doing all that, that takes significantly more planning. It's very doable. It is, depending on where your child is in their intervention and how they're doing and how much support you can take with you. That's not impossible, and we shouldn't take that off the table, but maybe it isn't the place to start. And I know life doesn't always work out. We started our intervention with CARD and had the first therapist come, and we'd been waiting for a little while, for the funding to come in so that we could have therapists come to the door. And we had started maybe like a week and a half, and it was my niece's wedding. And so we had to get on a plane. Oh, you guys. And the plane got canceled, so we got on a different plane that took us halfway there, and we got there and there were no planes, so we had to rent a car. Someday I'm going to write a movie script about how tragically horrible it was. And we're a week and a half maybe into therapy. Oh, you guys. And sometimes you just don't have a choice. I couldn't say to my niece, could you just wait a year to get married? Like that was going to work. So you make the best of it when you can. And we asked a lot of questions before we ever even went to the airport. And we laugh about it now. There was no laughing about it then. There were a lot of tears over a 48-hour period before. It was like an episode of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, trying to get there in time. We did. We got there in time for the wedding, not the rehearsal dinner. But, they're war stories. These are war stories that we tell. But my point is, if it's something that you can put off a while, not somebody's wedding, or as Nancy was saying yesterday, her big reunion that she can't reschedule it. But if you can, those bigger things, it might be better a little further down the road, right? But that doesn't mean we don't do anything. So let's start with the idea of taking a small amount of fun. And I was saying the other day that something that we used to like to do at the end of the day of therapy, we would put on just one song, and my husband and my son and I would dance around the kitchen and around the living room to sort of shake off the day of therapy and signal everything is done. And I talked to my husband about this last night. I said, we don't do this anymore. But he pointed out we do other things now, so that it's not an all or nothing proposition. But what could you do today? And in the beginning, it may not be fun for everyone, right? There may be one person in your family, taking the example of dancing around the living room, there may be one person who's like, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. I don't want to participate. But sometimes we have to learn how to have fun at something, and that's not just our kids on the autism spectrum. Sometimes we have to learn how to have fun with something. And maybe the first time it seems like a chore, but then somebody does something silly, and then everybody gets into it, and then it just becomes something that's fun and spontaneous. So ask yourself, what fun little 2-minute thing could you guys do today? And it might be singing a song in the car instead of just driving in silence. It might be playing a board game tonight with the family. Our kids on the spectrum need to be having that kind of activity happening, taking turns, all the different things you can work on, doing a board game. What is it? We have the karaoke channel on our cable, and sometimes when things get really stressful, we put the karaoke channel on and everybody has to sing a song, and that can be great fun. They say that singing is really good for your blood pressure because it vibrates everything here, the vagus nerve, all those things they think, and encouraging our kids to sing, such a powerful thing. So find something small to be able to commit to today, and commit to it for a while, so that, at least a week, to see if you can get it to the point where it starts being fun. Make sure that you're reinforcing yourself and everyone else for participating in the fun, right? If you've got a child who's glued to their screen and you say, we're going to get up and we're going to sing a song together, and they're like, I don't want to, right? Make sure that you say, hey, we're going to do this, and then I'm going to give you 5 more minutes of screen time than you would have had. Then the child will get up and do it. You congratulate them afterwards, you make it fun, and afterwards, yay, now you can go and have 5 more minutes of screen time, so that they're getting a paycheck for it, because eventually what will happen is that it will start to be fun. They start to associate it with the paycheck, and it starts to be fun. Okay, I think this is an ideal place to take a break, because then we're going to come back and talk about some of the logistics of planning the bigger thing. If you're going to go on a day trip, if you're going to go be with other people, how do we plan those things without making ourselves crazy and exhausted? We're going to talk a little bit about establishing operations, and are we setting ourselves up for success, or are we setting ourselves up for failure? Is something that I always need to be reminded of. So stick with us. We're going to be right back talking more about how do we have fun.
Hi, Lisa Ackerman back with Talk of Facts. Questions, real life questions and answers for the autism journey. Oh, are you ready for this one? Talk to me about puberty. So what I would recommend is, first and foremost, is the kids that have done the therapeutics, the medical, and the dietary allergen removal interventions tend to have an easier time at puberty. Seizures are really common for children on the spectrum, more than neurotypical populations, and they're especially most common right at or about puberty time. So it's extremely important, even if you have a 10-year-old, that you've already done an EEG, that you consider before they go through puberty to get a second EEG done. Just because you have one clean EEG with no abnormal brain activity or seizure activity, you need to do another one prior to puberty. That's one of the most common calls we get with teens on the spectrum, is they are often experiencing a seizure for what their family thinks is the first time. And the third thing is, you're gonna have a teenager, so you're really gonna have to kick it up a notch on those life skills, social skills, and getting your kid ready to be that teenager they need to be. So if you're doing that baby thing, and I know you are, where you're maybe making their lunches or helping them with laundry, we need to start bouncing some chores over to those kids. And we also need to increase social environments where they can be successful. So think about it. We've got 3 really important things that we need to look at. Puberty is a very serious issue, and we take it very seriously. So make sure you have all of your therapeutics, medical, and dietary interventions in place. Consider to do another 24-hour EEG with your physician prior to puberty. And the third most important thing, get ready to raise the bar. Your job is to really get them ready for life. And I know you can do it.
And there was the fabulous Lisa Ackerman from TACA. We so adore her. Okay, we're talking about how we have fun. How do we schedule it? How do we make it happen? And how do we take into consideration everybody's needs? And we were talking about taking just little small moments and creating fun. It really is amazing how just the smallest amount of time, and if you shake things up just a little bit, as I was saying, just singing a song in the car, doing a little funny dance at the store. There does come a point when kids, you have to step up your game. I'm right at that point, because we were someplace yesterday, and I was talking to my son, and I said, you know, we were walking someplace, and I could tell that he was getting a little antsy, a little bored, and I said, hey, let's walk like ducks, and then let's walk like this, and he did the first couple, and he was like, why are we doing this? Right? Now, when he was a kid, little kid, this was great fun, and I could distract him when we were having to walk someplace a great distance, and, you know, he wouldn't even notice because he thought it was great fun. Now that he's 11 and he's too cool for school, you know, I got to come up with new things. So now I start asking him things like, you know, what are the 5 best, and I make it in the beginning something that he's really into. What are the 5 best video games of all time, right? And then eventually I can weed it into things that are a little bit less about his favorite topic. But, you know, those little itty bitty things sometimes make all the difference. When we were working on adjectives with him, we would play whenever we were someplace a game called the Minister's Cat, and I love all those old parlor game kind of things that were around before there was television. And in the Minister's Cat, it's sort of like I'm going on a picnic, that game, but you have to describe the cat and use an adjective to describe the cat and go by the letter of the alphabet. So the Minister's Cat is adventuresome, right? And then the Minister's Cat is beautiful, all of these things. But my son likes to play the gory Halloween version of the Minister's Cat. So it has to be things like, you know, the Minister's Cat is absolutely grotesque. You know, so whatever, but it got him thinking of adjectives and understanding what adjectives were, and the alphabet. You know, these are ways in which we can have some fun. And even now he'll say to me, let's play the Minister's Cat. And that's great fun to him still at 11. Any moment now that will end too. But we also wanted to talk a little bit about how do we schedule for the big fun, the big events, the big days when it requires some thought and some planning. And I kind of had an epiphany about this just the other day, because I mentioned on that it was my son's birthday and we went to Legoland to celebrate his birthday. And, you know, that's a bit of a hike. It's like a 2.5-hour car drive, which is no small thing, right, each way. And then they, not only is there the Legoland park, so you have all the things that you need to do to be an amusement park, but there's the water park. So we're essentially packing to go to an amusement park. We're packing to go to a beach for all intents and purposes. And, of course, you know, there's all the dietary things that have to be brought for him, and then, you know, everything for everybody else, and the sunscreen and the sunglasses, and but I was reminded the other day, you know, I'm a big fan of Patrick Stewart, you know, Patrick Stewart from Star Trek The Next Generation and the X-Men. And I used to teach acting, and I had an opportunity once to do some work with Patrick Stewart. And I remember him saying to a group of young actors, they were asking, how do I prepare? How do I prepare? And it's like, fill in the blank. How do I prepare to go on stage? How do I prepare to do this? How do I prepare for an interview? Whatever. And Patrick Stewart, and I've always remembered this, he said, there's 2 different ways in which you prepare. And one is that you actually prepare, and the other one is that you shoot yourself in the foot. And I think that this applies to getting ready to go anywhere, ever, under any circumstances, but certainly to being autism parents. Because I can get myself in a dither faster than any 5 people and think, you know, it's going to take me me 5 days, and I got to pack for this, and I got to have, a plan, and I got to do this, which for some people is exactly how they prepare. But here's the thing that Patrick Stewart was talking about, that sometimes that isn't what's the best thing, because we set ourselves up, I do anyway, I set myself up because I am so worried about, am I going to pack everything? And it's the 4 day leading up to it. So by the time it's the morning and I'm, going through and saying, do we have this checklist, trying to be the Army drill sergeant, I'm already tired, I'm already cranky, and it's very likely that I'm not going to remember something, or somebody is going to forget to tell me that they needed something. We barely got to the park, and my fabulous, wonderful, stand-up guy husband said to me, did you think to pack his goggles for the water park? And my head came off. It floated around the room several times, and I got snippy, and I was like, no, did you? Right? And now we're off and running. Right? Not helpful. And I was defensive about it, right? So I think it's really important. And then I thought, oh, I'm doing that Patrick Stewart thing. I didn't really prepare. I shot myself in the foot. So stepping back and thinking, okay, how could I really prepare using the concept of establishing operations? What do I have on board for when I actually go to this event, so I will have a good time and I will be equipped to deal with the different things that are going to come up? Because it doesn't matter how much you plan, something's going to come up, right? Somebody's going to put spikes down so that you roll over it and go, oh, right? We have to learn to be flexible. So, for me, and it's going to be different for everybody else, making sure that I've gotten enough sleep the whole week before. Right? And that for me, maybe it's easier to have some things that are prepackaged. I'm not a big fan of prepackaged meals and things like that, but occasionally it's, it would be much easier. And there are some healthy choices. That one of the things that we did bring the other day, there are great organic apple sauces that come in little, hermetically sealed containers that you can take, and they're plastic. They let them into the park. I'm sure it's not great for the environment, but it's great establishing operation instead of packing, 3 million things and making the homemade applesauce and staying up and being so tired you can't enjoy the day. And there are many things that are like that. There are some that are gluten-free. You can even get them at movies now. You go to the movie theater and they sell those Go Picnic that are really healthy, sometimes really organic, gluten-free, dairy-free. It exists, right? We don't have to make ourselves nutty in the extreme. So making sure for me that sleep is on board. And for me, honestly, and I realized this on Saturday, that packing it all ahead of time the day before might be the thing for somebody else. It isn't for me, because then I question, what did I pack? And then I got to take it all out, and I wasted all of that time. And now everybody's standing around waiting, and I've got to unpack it. So better to just lay it all out, pack it that morning so that I've got eyes on it. That's what works for me. So ask yourself, what do you need to have on board for you to enjoy whatever the event is? And then, so start with yourself. So important. You know what they say about put the oxygen mask on yourself. And then think, what do I need to have on board for the different members of the family? I'm going to guess that sleep for everybody is key, right? I have a friend who was so determined. She was going on a very long plane ride with a child on the autism spectrum, and she was so determined that she wanted the child to sleep on the plane that she kept him up the night before so that he would sleep for, I think it was a 10-hour plane ride. And let me just tell you, it was the 7th ring of hell. Everything is better when people have slept. We never want to set ourselves up to say, well, I know I'll enter this very difficult thing sleep deprived, and that will make it better, right? That is not clear thinking. So making sure that people are fed and watered, including yourself, and that there is a way to be fed and watered along the way. I see, especially with kids, but also with adults, that you go and you have this plan to go and be someplace where you're going to celebrate and have fun. But if somebody can't get a drink and they start to get thirsty, things are going to degrade very quickly. And if they're hungry and their blood sugar is dropping, things are going to degrade very quickly. So having things like snacks and some sort of liquid to hydrate, super duper important no matter what you're doing. And it doesn't matter if it's the dead of winter or it's 120 degrees out, they still remain important, right? So thinking of those kinds of things, setting yourself up for success, because the goal for having fun is to be in the moment. And we need to eliminate all the things that keep us from being in the moment. And this very much was driven home to me when we were at Legoland. And believe me, going to a water park, not my favorite thing. It just isn't. It's not, but that's what my son wanted to do, and it was his birthday, and my husband loves it too, so I was going to soldier up and be able to do that. But then, of course, you've got all the stuff for the park. We get into, and they've got the changing rooms and the lockers and all this stuff, and I'm still having to be, pack everything, get everything out of the bag, get everything back in the bag. And at one point, I got really, really cranky. And I had to stop for a moment and say, what's going on here? And realize that I needed to take a moment. I just needed a moment. I was overwhelmed. And so I said to my husband and my son, go over there. I just need to pack this bag. I just need a moment to pack this bag uninterrupted, and I'll get it in the locker and I'll come out there and meet you. And it was just a simple thing, but I know me, and I know in the past that I've been very capable of just being fatoots the rest of the day instead of saying, hey, I just need a minute. And then I was able to get back in the moment. I packed the bag, and what was hilarious to me was that there was another mom right next to me that was having the same moment. She had 3 little kids, and they were like, Mom, and she was trying to get everything back in the bag and keep track of where things were and keep, the wet clothes separate from the dry clothes and all. And I could see her stress level, and she turned to the kids and she was like, everybody just sit down for a second. Everybody just sit down and let Mom do this. And I thought, oh, we're having parallel lives. But it is important to take stock and go, what do I need right now? And to be able to ask for that. Now, on the flip side of that, as we're looking at all of our kids, whether they're on the spectrum or not, is being mindful of whether they have the language to be able to tell us when they need a moment. And a lot of times our kids don't, for whatever reason. And, it isn't just kids who are on the autism spectrum, but being able to keep an eye on what's happening and sort of taking a level of where everybody is. Does Johnny need a drink of water? Does Becky, is she getting a little tired? Does Sam need a snack right about now? I know it's a lot to keep track of, but just kind of monitoring and trying to catch things before they escalate to the point where we're at meltdown really can make a difference and set us up for success for having that fun. And I also encourage you to have a moment when the fun is over to congratulate everybody on the fun and to kind of recap what happened, whether you do it with pictures. I love to take pictures, and so at the end of the day we'll sit there and we'll go, look at this, oh, this was so much fun when this happened, and this was fun when it sort of cements the day for me. But it doesn't have to be with pictures, but talking to the kids about, oh, it was so good that we did this, I had such a good time with you, letting them know that you enjoy that time with them, even if you have to lie about it to start with. It will come eventually. Having fun, it's so important. And if you have other ideas or other things that you've experienced to let us, what about this? Or, what I've found to be effective is this, please write in. And we said that next month with Vince Redmond, we're going to talk about things that we can do when we're preparing for those big trips, going on the planes and the buses and the taxis and, oh my goodness, the different things that you have to do. So stay tuned for that next month. All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back to talk a little bit about Stephanie's Day and tell you a little bit about that. Stick with us.
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to,
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man,
That's a rough one. Yes.
Autism. Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
Abstract.
Awesome.
Love.
The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Welcome back. We want to let you know about a really important event that we love here in Southern California. Although there is, it's Stephanie's Day, and there is a Stephanie's Day in Texas as well, and I hope that someday there will be more of them all over the place. So Stephanie's Day, which is coming up on June 21st, it is from 10 in the morning until 2. This happens on the CBS lot here in Los Angeles. If you are in the Los Angeles area, this is a really important day. I've taken my son to this many times. Autism Live will be there. It's the first time we've gone as Autism Live, but I've gone with my son. So much fun. It's totally free, you guys. And this event was started by Steve Malden, and Steve Malden will be with us on Tuesday to talk a little bit about this. Amazing gentleman who is so inspirational, and it's called Stephanie's Day because it's named after his daughter, who is a lovely young woman, just absolutely just beautiful and so sweet-spirited. And I think about this and I think, how tremendous is this that Stephanie and her life and her sweet spirit have changed a lot of people's lives, because you go to Stephanie's Day and first of all, you want to talk about feeling included. Oh my goodness. It is truly a remarkable event because everything is free and everything is about those kids completely. There is a huge resource fair. It's bigger this year than it's ever been before. And as I've said, Autism Lives we're participating this year. They have snow cones that they give the kids. They have a fire truck that's there. There are all these resources. So as a parent, you go and you know that your child is going to be cherished on that day. There are going to be events and things that happen. They have a stage that things happen on, but it truly is so very much fun, and you get to get a bunch of resources that are there. Really a remarkable event. I want to encourage you, if you're in the Los Angeles area, that's June 21st, so it's not this Saturday but the Saturday after. That's from 10 to 2. Stephanie's Day, totally free, and as I said, it's a tremendous event, and we hope that if you're there, that you'll come and say, hi, Emily and I will be there, and you know we love to meet you in person, and we love to give hugs and get hugs and meet your kiddos. I just can't even tell you, when we were at the Autism Walk, the Los Angeles Walk Now for Autism, it was so exciting to get to meet some of you and to get to meet your kiddos. Oh, we just came back so rejuvenated from that. So please come. You won't be sorry. It's often a very warm day, but there are lots of tents. There are quiet zones. They really do it right. And of course, the snow cones are a big treat. And if your kids can't do all the colors and the sugar, my son can't do all of that, but he loves, they have those plastic cups that look like flowers that the snow cones come in, and he loves to just get the ice. There are often other freebies that they give away there. And you know, I've taken in the past some lemonade that we've made in a bottle and just poured it over the ice, and it's a fabulous, refreshing treat. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, that came out of nowhere. Excuse me. But in any case, come to Stephanie's Day. You won't be sorry. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And we thank Steve Malden and his family and Stephanie herself and CBS for participating and making this day happen. It's truly a wonderful thing. And I don't know where we'll be on the lot this year because I know it's a different place than it's been in the past. But one of my son's biggest treats, he loves to go there because it is on the lot of CBS. And so they have some of the houses and things that get used in different productions of TV things. And he was so excited the last time we were there because apparently, you know, the Timmy Turner from Fairly Odd Parents, that show, if your kids watch those kinds of things, they did a live action movie of Timmy Turner and his house was there. And my son was so excited. He's like, this is Timmy Turner's house. He was so thrilled we had to take pictures of it. It's just a fun day, and you will meet other parents and other individuals that are on the spectrum. It's a glorious thing. Stephanie's Day, make sure you go 10 to 2, June 21st, and make sure that you find us. We will be thrilled to see you. All right, we're going to take a break and go now to the A Word. This is an ongoing documentary that's being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. It follows a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And at this point in the series, they're working on a lot of different things. Jack Riley's been having this intervention, ABA, quality ABA, for a couple of months now. And they're at a point where they've gained great rapport with him, so they're taking on a little bit harder tasks. I love this series because you get an opportunity to see what the full arc is. I know so many of you write in and say, okay, we've started the ABA, but when is this going to happen? And when is that going to happen? And why haven't we gotten to this? Because rapport has to be there, and there's an order in which you set yourself up for success. But now they're getting to some of the harder stuff with Jack Riley, and it's really fun to watch them be able to introduce new tasks with him. So take a look. This is the A Word.
We skipped a few in the middle, didn't we, love? Jack Riley likes to watch videos about the ABCs, or the ABBCs, as he likes to say. He kept throwing a fit and misbehaving when he wasn't getting what he wanted. We finally decided it was time to turn off the computer. And of course, we did that without warning him.
He threw one of the biggest tantrums I've ever seen from him, because he's used to getting his way now, because now that he can say it, we're supposed to reward him. But now he's testing us.
While we are 100% ABA advocates and we believe it is working on our son, there is a little fallout in reinforcing these requests that he doesn't quite understand now that he doesn't get everything he wants.
Bye-bye.
This is completely typical. When requesting isn't something that happens naturally with your child, you want to create as many opportunities to practice the skill. So you reinforce each time they request, because it will increase the frequency they demand. Once the requests are at a rate you want, then you should begin to fade the frequency of reinforcement and teach new advanced skills, such as having the child wait for a desired item or let them know that they must choose something else. These are all life skills. Not every desire will be met, but you are more likely to get what you want if you communicate your wants appropriately.
You want some applesauce, buddy?
Yeah, why don't we put the car over here,
Yeah,
bud?
let's take the car. No, we're just gonna take a break. Take a break. Take a break.
Bye-bye.
Do you want this? Do you want the car?
Do you want more car?
Settle down. Settle down.
Okay,
Settle
do you
down.
want more car? Okay, and you want applesauce? Okay. All right, take another bite. One more. There you go.
Nice, that was a good
Okay.
bite too, buddy.
There you go.
Good bite.
All right. Yeah, I should have warned him before I took it away.
We get reminded all the time. It just works so well.
It does, it really
and then
does,
You forget
yeah.
to do it. And
Okay, 10 more seconds and bye-bye car, okay? Bye-bye car. 10 okay. Okay. Okay, let me have it. Bye-bye car.
Ow!
Nope, that's okay. Settle down.
Thank you.
Take two bites, please. Do you want the car?
Yes.
Two bites. 2 bites. Good talking.
1, and then 2.
Good job. Good job, buddy.
Good job.
Good job. Good job.
How has mealtime been going with you? Still the same? Still
Yeah, it's
pretty
going well. Yeah. You know what he had last night? Did Cheryl tell you?
No.
We are documenting this because this bite of spaghetti that he's about to take is the first ever meal that Jack Riley has had exactly what Mommy and Daddy are having. With the exception of the cottage cheese. He would eat that too, but we're going slow. I realize it's just spaghetti, and lots of kids probably eat spaghetti, but our kid never did. Not for us, anyway. And now, he's like just a regular kid having dinner with Mom and Dad.
Good boy. Say choo-choo. Choo-choo. Say here we go. Here you go. All right, make it go down. Go down. Whee! Yay! Good job. Should we build more tracks? Yeah, a boat track. Okay, sure. Here you go. Do you want the green one or the blue one? Green. You want which one? Black. You want black? Oh, well, none of the ones I offered you. Cool. I like that. I like it. And he's definitely requesting more eating and drinking, which is really good to hear. So I don't know if they want to introduce him to other things. Like, it's up to them. But just the fact that he's requesting to drink is a big deal for him. Hey, Jack, 1 more minute, okay? Say, okay. 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 He has an issue sometimes, like inflexibility a little bit, with just the trains in particular. When I'll ask him to come over to do a program real quick, he'll want to clean up the trains up every single time. With the other toys though, like I can call him over, he can take a break, he's totally fine, and then after we're done with our program, he'll go back and he'll play. With the trains in particular, I don't know why he wants to clean them up every single time. So I'll run some programs and we'll see if he has that issue still. Hey, Jack. Good looking. Come here. Yeah! That's such good listening. Good job, mister. What is this? What are those? Papa. No, what are these? Papa. What's this? What's this one? Ears. Yay! There you go. Ears. Very good, kiddo. Hey, look at me. Hey, look over. Yay! There you go. What are these? Fingers. Good job. What are... Mouth, yeah. What's this? Head. Very good. Okay, one more sticker. What are these? Fingers. Good job. All right. Yeah, that transition was a lot better. Where's Piglet?
Just love that little boy and love watching him learn. I want to talk about some of the stuff at the beginning of this video because, and by the way, you can watch this entire series. You can pause it, rewind it, whatever you want to do on their very own YouTube channel. But, you know, the mom says at the beginning, wow, you know, we're a couple of months in and we are big ABA advocates. We see that it's working with our child. We see that it makes a difference, but there is a fallout. And she talks about the fact that because they're using positive reinforcement to get him to do things, that now he's learned, well, if I do this, I get this, so I'm entitled to that. And we see that there is some behavior that's coming when he doesn't get his way. And I think that that's the big thing that parents worry about. Well, if all I ever do is reinforce good behavior, then when am I going to teach these lessons about you can't do this? We all have been raised in this very punitive society that, well, I have to teach that person a lesson, or I can't let him get away with that, right? And yet we see if we're honest with ourselves, that when we are punitive, it really doesn't change behavior, or we would have fewer jails than we had before, and that's not the case, right? So, and we could talk about the larger picture with the world and how things are going, but let's focus on our kids. We want to do what actually works to get the behavior to change to the behavior that is helpful and productive for our child, right? And yet there's that scary thing of, well, if I reinforce this, then how will he ever know not to do these other things? Okay, so we see that there's a moment, case in point, right? They're saying to him, you get the toy, you get the big, I think it's a shoe, on your high chair table, and you eat, and we get it for a minute, and now we're going to take it away. And I don't know about you, the first time they talked about this, I was like, then he's going to have a tantrum. This is exactly what we don't want to do. And you see that that's exactly what starts to happen. The dad, with some trepidation, takes the toy away, and he's having some feelings about it, and the child, right? And dad says, okay, settle down. And the therapist is kind of off camera, but, making a gesture to dad about, don't have that reaction, basically. And bless this dad, because he's so willing to be human on camera and show us what we'd all do. All of us would have done exactly what he did. But the truth is, and if you watch later in the series, dad has learned, I don't have a reaction when he's having the tantrum because I don't want to give him inadvertently a paycheck for it. It is what it is, right? I take the toy away, and if he starts to fuss, let him fuss in a vacuum. Let him fuss in a place that doesn't get him anything. It doesn't, right? It's a non-reaction. Watch the therapist do this, and you'll go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that works. But he settles down immediately because what he wants is the toy. And they put the food in front of him and say, take 2 bites. And he takes 2 bites and he gets the toy back again. Now, if dad continues to have a reaction every time we take the toy away, and it gets into a big discussion about, you can't fuss, and you can't throw a tantrum, and there's no point. This is exactly the mistake I make on a regular basis. But if we just don't give it the attention, it will out like a fire with no oxygen, because the tantrum is happening because he wants the thing. And if he doesn't get the thing from it and he doesn't get anything else, it takes a lot of energy to do a tantrum, and he will stop doing that. But if he gets any kind of a paycheck, it will not go away. It won't. Why would it? Why would any of us? And I love when behavioral therapists talk about the whole principle of slot machines, and that, you put your coin in the slot machine, and most of the time people don't win. So you would think that, nobody would continue to put money in the slot machine. But this is what happens with positive reinforcement down the road. In the beginning, we give it to the kids every time they ask. But after a period of time, we kind of wean them off of it so that they know that sometimes when I do this behavior, I get a big reinforcer for it, right? And look at how people are about slot machines. If every time they got a reward from the slot machine, we would all be doing it, right? And you would think on paper that since it doesn't happen every time, then people wouldn't bother to put money in the slot machine. But if you've ever won on a slot machine, then you want to put more money back in because it could happen again. So we'll see that down the road, Jack Riley doesn't have to get everything he asks for every time he asks for it. Down the road, he'll learn that sometimes when I do this, I get a big reward. Sometimes I get a little reward. Sometimes it's a non-reaction, but it's still worthwhile for me to do this. He will learn that. And the parents learn it too, and they stop needing to have the conversation. We all need to learn to edit. I used to have, it's very simplistic, and it doesn't cover the whole thing, but to remind me, I had a thing on our bathroom mirror that said, reward the good behavior and ignore the bad behavior. Now that's so oversimplistic, but it's a good place to start. That for that dad in that moment, when he takes the bite, he's going to reward him, but when he's just going to have a non-reaction. a non-reaction. We're not ignoring the child, but we're ignoring his fuss because it's there and we don't want to give it any fuel to stick around. And you will see if you watch the series, Jack Riley stops doing it because it isn't serving a purpose. It's not functional for him. No, nothing happens. And dad doesn't talk to him, give him attention about it. It goes away. Okay. Watch the A Word on their very own YouTube channel. Oh, there's so much to learn there. I wanted to take a brief second. We promised you in the news, and there was big news yesterday having to do with Autism Speaks in Google. I don't know if you saw it, but Google has aligned with Autism Speaks to help build the largest genome database in autism. We've talked a lot, especially this week, about phenotyping autism and how there are all these subtypes to autism, and if we can get to the point where we can classify all those different subtypes of autism, we will be in the best possible situation to create treatments and therapies that will be more effective. We say this child has this type of autism, and we know that what's really effective for that is doing this many hours of ABA, and this in combination with this particular thing, this is shown to be the most effective. Here's this child over here who has a different, they regressed into autism. It has these two markers, and we found that this amount of ABA is more effective with this other thing on board. It is the game changer that we're all waiting for, right? And some of the difficulty has been getting enough cases. Some of it has been, how do we house it? Well, Autism Speaks has a plan, and they've partnered with Google to be able to create something that's called Aut10K. It will be, which stands for Autism Speaks 10,000 Genomes Program, and it will live on Google's cloud platform. It will serve as an open resource to support autism research. So different researchers will be able to use this same information. This is powerful, you guys. This has the potential to be a game changer. Autism Speaks has been able, according to the report yesterday, to gain a private collection of DNA samples from 12,000 documented autism cases with detailed phenotyping. That is impressive to me. I want to know more about that. But they have been using this database for 15 years. Rob Ring, who is the Chief Science Officer at Autism Speak, said this is a really exciting time for us, and added that without the partnership with Google, they were really missing the component to be able to execute fully. He says the goal is to build an open access database for the entire research community. Very, very exciting. Of course, there were many questions that were raised yesterday about how secure is the data being housed on Google Cloud. I know a lot of parents are concerned about, will my child's information be able to share? And Ring went on to say, this is as secure as it gets. The important thing is that the data has been de-identified with names and other personal information stripped out. And he further went on to explain that researchers who will use it will have to agree with certain terms of use. Amazing, amazing. We're looking forward to more information about this. But again, the Aut10K project aligning itself with Google to make a huge interactive open database for researchers with the largest amount of DNA samples having to do with autism and the ability to phenotype it thus far. So very, very exciting. And kudos to Google for stepping up and saying we will be a part of this, because I don't think they could do it without them. All right. Good news all the way around. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox will be back in the house talking about science and helping us to figure out how do we teach creativity and foster imagination. He'll also be answering your questions. Send them in. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Ryan with Autism Research Group. We study ways to improve the lives of kids with autism. One of those ways is teaching safety skills, such as what to do if they get lost. We hit the streets to find out if anybody knows the correct answer on how to teach a kid what to do if they get lost. You're teaching the child.
What to do if they get lost?
Yeah. You're trying to make them independent so they have the skills.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, give them a compass. Code name's good idea. Centurion.
We always have this whistle.
Oh, I'd also tell the kid, don't get scared. You're gonna be all right, man. This is just the world. This is planet Earth. You're at home here. As long as you're on planet Earth, you're at home.
As long as you're on planet Earth, you're home. This guy's a genius. With that flawless logic, he just solved our homeless problem. And as for the unique sounding whistle, although very cool, it'll probably only work if you're in close proximity. And a compass?
I have her call me.
Yeah, she don't have a phone. Parents are like, you're too young, you don't need a phone.
Establish some sort of like meeting place.
What if they can't find a meeting place? Because sometimes the kids get nervous when they get lost.
Yeah.
So like a backup plan,
Well,
plan B.
Yeah, I don't know. No, not really.
Let them go and find a new kid or something.
Yeah, I got a different one. Yeah.
There's not much you can do.
There is stuff you can do.
Right?
That's right, there is stuff you can do. In 2012, myself, along with my colleagues, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox and Dr. Adele Nadowski, published a study in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis on teaching kids what to do when they get lost. The study demonstrated how 3 simple things, rules, role-playing, and praise, were effective in establishing these help-seeking behaviors. The benefit of this method is it doesn't require the child to have a cell phone or to have to locate a meeting place, which might be difficult if they're in a place like Disneyland. So once again, our method included rules, role-playing, and praise. Let's head back outside and learn about some of these rules.
They should yell out loud. Can't find my mom, help me.
Maybe yell out and scream for help.
All right, scream really loud.
Correct.
And if that doesn't work, then,
I don't know.
well, they could seek help from someone.
Find an adult.
Yeah, go to a vendor, you know, and say I'm lost.
Find an adult, like a police officer or a fireman or an employee in the store, and tell them, and maybe they can help you contact your parent. It really is that simple. You don't need to get your kid a cell phone. You don't need to establish a meeting place that they might not be able to find when they're lost and panicking. And you definitely don't need to give them a compass. All your kid has to do is 3 things. First, yell mom or dad real loud. 2, if that doesn't work, find an employee. And then 3rd, tell the employee they're lost. If they can't locate an employee, then tell them to find a mother with children, because that's probably the safest person to approach. I'm not saying that most men are predators, but most predators are men. That is a fact. I've read it in a fortune cookie. All right, so you've gone over the rules with your kid, and you've quizzed them, and they're able to tell you the correct responses so they understand the rules. But is that enough? How do you know they're gonna perform correctly in a real world setting? You need to get out there and find out if they can actually do it. So you'd go over the rules and tell them like, do this, do that, but how would you know if they actually knew what to do? If you wanted to shoot a basketball, and I just told you, oh, when you shoot a basketball, do this, this, and this.
I never practice.
You never practice, yeah, so it don't matter how many times we go over the rules or how well you can repeat them back to me. It's not going to change until you get on the court and practice.
Maybe do like a, you know, a little skit with them.
Like a role play?
Role play, yeah.
Your child, you're lost in the toy aisle.
Okay.
What do you do? I'm an attendant walking around.
I'm lost, I don't know where my mom is.
And then once you practice, you just like praise them, give them feedback, like good job, you did it.
Reinforcing it.
Yes, this woman wins the prize for best comment. She pointed out the most important part of learning. Reinforcement. Now, in our study, we used praise, but for your kid, you might have to use something else. You might have to buy them a treat, a toy, take them to their favorite restaurant where they can eat unhealthy food and run around and climb through plastic tunnels that have the unmistakable scent of urine, and then play games, spending $20 to get a plastic little spider ring that they will eventually lose in a ball pit. The point is, you need to reward your child for correctly demonstrating what you've been teaching them.
Okay, I'm gonna call her. Hello, your child, Ryan is missing. There you go.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So you tested it out
I'll
in the
try.
store to make sure I knew it. I had the rules,
Yes.
we role played it, and you made sure I knew it, and then like you said, good job, and all that. Now we're good to go.
We're good to go.
All right.
Done?
High five right there.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Give your child the rules, get out there and practice, and reward your child for responding correctly. For more information, please visit us online at autismresearchgroup.org. I'm Ryan Bergstrom. Thanks for watching. Yes, ding, no. Yes, this woman wins the first. Yes, this woman. Yes, this woman wins the best. Yes, this woman wins the first place. Yes, this woman. Why can't I say woman? Yes, this woman wins. What's the line? Yes!
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm so excited because for the second time this week, we have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox here with us in the house. And such a thrill to have you here. You are, of course, the director of the Autism Research Group, and you are also the head of research and development at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, which just is amazing at what you do and how you add to all of our lives, because you're focused on research that makes a difference to families that are dealing with autism now. So I applaud you for that. And you have a wonderful way of explaining things so that parents get it. It's just, I always love, after you go and speak someplace, I'll always hear from a parent who says, isn't he amazing? Because you have a way of putting things that we actually get them.
Well, thank you.
And I always love it here on the show. You talk with us about science and taking apart research, and you have a particular interest, in my opinion, let's hear from you, but about things that happen on the inside behaviorally.
Right.
So we've asked you today to talk to us a little bit about creativity and imagination. So many of our parents will write in and say, my child isn't demonstrating creativity, isn't demonstrating imagination. There are people all over the world who are saying, well, they have autism, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Is that true, or can we teach it?
Absolutely, we can teach it. And you know, I love that you asked this question, because it's kind of it's a fun, challenging, interesting question. It's not your typical ABA question, right? So the first thing I'd like to say to your viewer is, by the way, everyone in the typically developing population, you know, there's a percentage of folks that are not creative at all and are never going to be, right? Not everyone's going to be an artist. Not everyone's going to be an actor or a musician. And some people are totally fine with that, you know? And so just because your child isn't very creative and they also happen to be on the spectrum doesn't necessarily mean that one causes the other, right? Some folks just aren't that creative, and that's okay. So first of all, I'd point that out, right? Yeah. But if you are interested in your child becoming more creative and becoming more flexible, becoming more imaginative, maybe less rigid, there's absolutely things you can do to work on that. And the first thing that I'd like to point out is, what do folks in the typically developing population, what do we do when we want to get better at being creative? There's classes for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Take an art class,
There's all
right?
kinds of things that we...
you can go to an actor's studio, take an acting class, take a creativity class, take an improv class. So that in itself shows that very clearly these are skills that we have as human beings. They're not innate traits that are either caused by autism or the lack of autism, right? Certainly there's brain structures and genetic endowment that, you know, that contribute to this stuff, right?
Yes.
But just as much, it's something that's learned through our environment and through our interactions with the environment. So of course it's flexible, of course it's malleable, but like anything else, it's going to be a spectrum. So if you take the very most rigid kid on the planet, right, who has autism spectrum disorder, can they become more creative? Absolutely. Are they going to become a really, really creative person? Who knows? Maybe not, right? But wherever we start today, you know, we always talk about this on your show, wherever we start today, there's potential to get a little bit further in whatever direction we want to go. And so if creativity is the direction we want to go, there's absolutely potential there.
Okay, so for, let's take a couple of different instances. For somebody who's got a 4-year-old, and they're looking at the 4-year-old and not seeing, our jargon today was symbolic play, and the other day it was functional pretend play. And so they're not seeing these kinds of things organically from their child. What kinds of things can they do to foster those skills with a 4-year-old?
Right, okay, so the great thing about having a science behind what you do, for example, ABA, is that you don't just have to make up theories and try them out. You actually have 100 years of research on learning and on motivation. Today we're really talking about learning, how to learn to be more creative. And there's actually a lot of research that shows exactly how to make someone more rigid, if you want to do that, and exactly how to make someone more flexible and creative if you want to do that, okay? And so the short answer is, if you want someone to be rigid, you need to have them do the same thing over and over, no matter what. Okay? And so your teaching procedures should be really repetitive, really rote, okay? And that will produce really repetitive, really rote behavior on the part of the child. And there are some times when we want to do this, right? For example, safety situations,
Yes.
right? Like every single time your child finds a gun left on the coffee table, they should not touch it, they should run away, and they should tell an adult. There doesn't need to be any thinking or creativity involved, right? Do the safe behavior, right? Every time they see fire, don't touch it, right? So there are some behaviors that we want really reliably rote and repetitive. But most behaviors we don't, and creativity is one that clearly we don't, right? So to get more creative and more flexible behavior going with your child, what you need to do, you and your child's provider, whether it's a teacher or an ABA therapist, whoever it is prompt and reinforce different behaviors in a variety of different ways, in different settings, using different reinforcers, using a different tone of voice, using different toys, right? Don't do the same thing over and over, okay? So the play example that you were asking about, what we do is, sort of like a bad quality ABA program, what they might do is pick one toy and teach the kid to do the same thing over and over with that toy. So give them a fire truck and teach them to go, rum, rum, okay? That would be functional pretend play. Well, you could do that. You could prompt that behavior, so show the kid how to do it. When he does it correctly, give him a positive reinforcer. And if you do that over and over, that's the only behavior he's going to do with the fire truck, and he's not going to be creative. So what you'll want to do instead is, if you're working on, let's say, making sounds with toys, you'd have many different toys. So a fire truck, an airplane, a frog, you name it, a dog, many different toys, and you prompt and reinforce more than one different sound for each different toy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the fire truck could make a siren noise, or it could make an engine noise. The frog could, well, I don't know, the frog could ribbit, I don't know what other noises frogs make, right? But there's different things for each object, right? So it's not one object and one behavior on the part of the child. Prompt and reinforce a variety of those, mixing them up the entire time as you go, and what you will see is the child does different stuff. And when I say do different stuff, don't do it in the same order, right? Don't always do dog, fire truck, fire engine, or whatever. Mix up the sequence, mix up the order, mix up all the different combinations. And if you want, save some of those combinations of sounds and objects and don't actually teach them, and see if the kid figures them out on their own. Or for some sounds, only teach them with some objects and don't teach those sounds with the other objects. And if you do this whole process is called multiple exemplar training. And if you do this properly, what you'll find is that your child will start to use sounds that he learns with one object. He'll start to apply those sounds to a different object, even though you never told him to do it, okay? Wow. That's creativity. It's the smallest little bit of creativity, but it's creativity.
It's a place to build on.
It's a place to build on. It's the kid coming up with his own idea of how to use a toy.
Wow.
And so you start there, and of course, like everything else with all human learning, whether you call it ABA or not, you start simple and you get more complex.
What I'm really struck by, though, is once again how important it is to get quality ABA.
Absolutely.
That you don't have somebody who's just phoning it in, that it's so important that we as parents and as teachers and as practitioners understand that we've got to bring a level of creativity to this. And flexibility. Otherwise, we're not going to get it done in the right way.
Right.
Amazing to think about.
And so, here's another analogy from a painting class. I used to be an artist. Don't do much of that anymore.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but when you learn painting, you start with real basic stuff like how to make a simple brush stroke, how to mix particular colors, and you do how to draw or paint simple shapes and simple forms, like the still life with fruit or whatever, right? Or spheres or cubes. But then of course you're not done there, right? Then you gradually paint many different things using many different techniques, right? Yeah. And the point isn't to memorize how to paint a particular picture, obviously, right? The point is to build up that flexible, creative repertoire of being able to do many different things in many different ways. But you only learn that through practicing many different things in many different ways. You don't learn it through repetition.
So interesting. So very interesting. My head is abuzz with so many. Quite honestly, there are a lot of art studios out there that offer a free class to kids. And we took my son to one of those classes, and they evaluate, and it was interesting to me because they don't want the parent to be there, and I refuse to leave. You know me. And anyway, the child picks the painting that they want to do, and they talk them through every single step of it. And I remember being offended and going, there's no creativity. It might as well be paint by number.
Right.
But what you're telling me is that it's a great basis. Like, I should have been more open to it.
What they're doing is totally fine, but now the next day, on the next class, they talk them through a different painting. And the next day, another one, and another one, and another one. And what you'll find is, after training enough examples of the same basic skill set, the child can then create new examples himself when he's not directly told to do it. That's the goal. And a good ABA program will directly probe for that. And so you'll teach lots and lots of different examples, and you'll have additional examples that you didn't teach, and you'll see if the kid can come up with those on their own. And if they do, that's when you know you've actually established some creativity.
Amazing. All right, I got to stew on this a little bit because this is mind expanding, and I'm thinking about all the different things that we teach Jem, and am I using different techniques? I'm like going through the catalog now going, wow, I got to be a little bit different.
And the thing too is, like, you know, in our normal sort of, you know, day-to-day culture, we think of creativity as being sort of more relevant to arts and not so much other areas. But when you think about it, the same basic process applies to everything that we do. So a master, you know, athlete in any particular sport will come up with new ways of doing things. They won't just repeat the same plays that they were taught, right? You know, even a great salesperson is going to come up with new ways of selling things, right? And so it applies to everything we do. So if you look at your kid's whole behavioral intervention program or whole IEP and special ed, whatever it is, every area on there, there's an opportunity to enhance creativity and enhance flexibility by teaching by teaching the child those skills in multiple different ways, and encouraging new ways to recombine what they've learned into sort of new formulations. So the same thing works with conversation training. You know, you might start out with specific scripts, like, of course, when someone says hi, you say hi back. You know, when someone says, how are you doing, you teach a few different reasonable answers, but you don't just teach the same script over and over. You teach many, many different ways to have conversational exchanges, and then the key is you observe and you take data on how many new combinations has the child come up with themselves. And when they start coming up with the new combinations, that's when you know that your language training or your conversation training program is actually working.
But it starts with reinforcing that.
Absolutely.
Actually, it starts with being mindful of that. I need to teach it with that in mind.
Yeah, and it starts with the teacher themselves being creative and flexible, modeling that.
Powerful, powerful stuff. All right, we're going to take a break, but before we do, I wanted to address a couple of things that you guys wrote in. To Mike Hipple, who wrote it and said, hey, don't hate on men. We love to play with our toys, because earlier I was talking about how men still have their toys when they grow up. I'm not hating on you. In fact, I said women need to take a note out of your page. And you said, if anyone have a fun game to play with children who use a communication device, to please write in today. We want to hear from people. Mike's interested in that. He's always looking for a new game to play with students that he works with. So we're putting it out there, Mike. And when talking about packing, somebody wrote in and said, packing, same here, lady. I am that day packer for exactly that same reason. I said that I've stopped now. New epiphany. I'm not going to pack days in advance, because then I have to take everything out because I can't remember what I packed. You talk about an EF nightmare.
I've never been organized to pack the day before anyway, so I'm always the same.
Honestly, it's usually, for some reason, women take that on. It's like attached to our ovaries for some reason. We think that we need to pack everything. It's the hunter-gatherer thing, I think. Anyway, they went on to say, unfortunately, that causes me more stress, because then I'm rushed, and I hate to be rushed, and that's life, and that's our life, and LOL. Yes, we went to Legoland on Saturday to celebrate Jem's birthday, and I was trying to pack for the water park and pack for the regular park, and of course we got to the park, and Jim turned to me and said, did we pack his goggles? And of course I was like, no, did you do it? You know how it all goes south right there. And I was stressful in that last few moments running around the house. We were a half hour late out the door, and I was apologizing, saying, I'm sorry, I don't know why I can't ever get it together. And my husband was standing there saying, what can I do to help? But, you know, I don't have verbal skills to do that. To tell somebody how to help me, that would be asking too much. I'd have to go back to school and get a PhD in that, and I don't have time for that. In any case, we love it when you guys write in and commiserate with me. And Mike, believe me, I'm not hating on men. It's more laughing at women and how we do things. But if anybody's got a game to play with somebody with a communication device, please write in so that we can give Mike some new suggestions. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back more with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, and he's going to be answering some some of the questions you guys have written in. If you have a question, make sure you write it in now, because there is a little bit of a lag. So stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity of
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. We call this time of the week Science Beat with Dr. Tarbox because he got a beautiful brain. He is the head of research and development at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. He is also the director of the Autism Research Group, and we love to have him available and answering questions. We had you on the show on Tuesday because Wendy Chung was here from the Simons Foundation. She's one of the leading geneticists in the field of autism, and we were talking about this yesterday on the show, and I mentioned that we had her on, and Nancy said to me, you know, you had this woman on, were you able to hold a conversation? I said, well, I pulled Dr. Jonathan Tarbox in so that I, you know, because let's be honest. No, because a lot of it is over my head, and I'm sure that if I wanted to devote my life to figuring it out, I could, but I do have other things to do. I want to understand what I need to understand. It's just like the computer. I want to be able to type and hit print and understand to be able to do the things I need to do, but I really don't want to know how it works. I have other things I would rather spend my time on.
Makes sense.
That are creative to me. But so thrilling that I had you here to sort of help with that discussion. And in part of that discussion, you were talking about the different subtypes of autism. So somebody had a question. They said, well, watching a rerun of yesterday's show, and they wrote this in yesterday, Dr. Tarbox talked about learning subtypes, visual, children with rigidity issues, and hyperlexia were his examples. I feel like my son is all three of those. With a large emphasis on the hyperlexia and rigidity. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Right.
And I love how as people on this planet, we always want to put things in nice, tidy little boxes, right? And go, this is good, this is bad.
Right.
A lot of times things don't belong in either of that camp, right?
That's right. Well, yeah, I mean, my general outlook on life, and especially on just the work that I do with families affected by autism, there is no good and bad. It's about how can I maximize potential for my child and my family? How can I increase independence, increase happiness, increase fun, and get the most out of life for me, my family, and my kids. So that's really what it comes down to. But I know that's easy for me to say, right? I mean, of course, your listener wants an answer. Like, what does this mean for my kid?
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because once you kind of let go of whether something is good or bad, or is it a curse or a blessing, and once you just look at it and say, well, okay, this is what it is. This is what I have. I can't have anything else. These are the cards that I was dealt. What can I do with these cards? What kind of potential is there in this? It starts to open up a lot of possibilities. And so, for example, kids who are hyperlexic, like if you want to look at it as a bad thing, you could say, well, why can't they just have a conversation? How come everything has to be written or in letters? Or how come they know how to read but they don't have social skills, right? But if you want to look at the positive aspects of it, man, they're going to learn how to read way younger, right? So like I know, kids with Asperger's who, taught themselves to read when they were 1 or 2, and yet have a very tough time with social skills. But the reading part is huge, right? I mean, there's a huge percentage of folks in the typically developing population who have a terribly tough time learning how to read, even if they get good quality education. well, that's one thing you're not going to have to worry about.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that, to a large extent, hyperlexia can be a huge strength.
Absolutely.
It can be basically kind of a superpower, right,
Yeah.
for some of the kids that have that. And so that, what you need to do is think about this. Okay, how is this a strength, and how can I really maximize the potential of that strength? So how can I customize my child's special education program or ABA program, and even home environment? How can I reorient it towards that strength, right? So I know my child likes reading or likes letters, likes written language. How can I use that? So can I use that in a visual schedule? Can I use reading as a reinforcer, right? So you get to read your favorite book after you complete some other homework that's maybe a little bit more challenging. Families a lot of times will put written words all over their house, to help kids learn the name of objects.
Yeah.
Because for some reason it's actually easier to read a word than just learn the name of an object, which is mysterious, right? It doesn't make sense. It's quite different, but there are these kids out there for whom letters and words just make things easier. So.
And then on the flip side, when we do look at strengths and weaknesses, understanding that, okay, if there's this strength and there's this weakness, how do we shore that up?
Sure.
How do we, I'm thinking about the rigidity that she's talking about, which rigidity can be good in some circumstances, like you were talking about in safety. Rigidity is a fabulous thing. If you know that your child is very rule-oriented and they're going to hold to the rules, then you know they're not going to run out into the street after the ball.
Right, exactly.
Which is amazing to know.
And there's lots of other areas where, for example, just thinking that, I have to do well in school and I have to give it my, my best shot in school. That's a great rule to follow. And if you're going to be rigid about that, it's fantastic, right? I have to do give it my best shot to find a job, when I'm maybe in transitional age, 16, 18, 20. Those are great rules to follow. Some other rules that are not, so helpful to follow are when...
I must drive this way to work every morning, and if I can't, it's the end of my world.
Exactly. I must, close every door. No doors can be open a little bit, or close cabinets, or other people's hair or clothing has to be just a certain way. These rules these rigidities can be really challenging.
But we can work on those.
Absolutely, we can work on those.
Nobody is stuck with. We were watching. Jem and I were watching America's Got Talent the other day, and of course Howie Mandela's on there, and he talks about having some obsessive compulsive, and I share that with him. But his thing is that nobody can touch his hands, and for a while it made it so that Howie couldn't work. He didn't want to work and then he put it out there and said, "Nobody touches my hands." And it's interesting to watch him work, and people work around it, and people understand, and sometimes people make fun of him. But I'm struck by the fact that if Howie really wanted to change that, if it really got in his way enough, there are ways that he could change it. He's found a way that it works enough for him that he doesn't want to change it.
Right.
And we respect that. But the truth is, for our kids, when they have those kinds of rigidity, it's not just a done deal. There's nothing we can do about it. There are ways to go about changing that.
Right. Yeah. There's sort of this misconception, I think, within the autism community that either you need to accept your kid for who he is, or you need to push for change and treatment, right? And if you look at it at the simplest level, I guess that makes sense, but it's totally false, right? So the first step to being okay when you have someone affected by autism in your family is accepting them for who they are and not denying. This is what it is, right? And after you do that, now it's time to produce the maximum change possible in directions that are going to help this kid live a better life, right?
Yeah.
So it's both. It's not one or the other.
One of the best things anybody ever told me is that there's a difference between acceptance and contentment. And that you really want to accept things for what they are, but that doesn't mean you have to be content with them and keep them in the status quo. And when they put it in that term for me, I went, oh, okay, I'm not betraying the acceptance of something if I want to change it.
Right, absolutely.
And that was freeing for me.
Absolutely. And, an example from my own life is I'm really into running now, long distance running, and I'd love to run like an ultra marathon, like a 100-mile race or something someday, and I'm just totally sure that I'm not going to be able to do that given my, you know what, that's okay, right? I've got a lot of other things going on. I've got work, I got family, I got kids. I don't have time to train that much, right? And so I'm not going to be a world-class runner, period. But does that mean that I could get significantly better tomorrow than I am today? Of course, right? And so it's about doing the best you can with what you have. And a great deal of satisfaction can come from small victories along the way, right?
I want you to be on American Ninja. That's what we want to lobby for Dr. Tarbox to be on American Ninja.
That'd be fun.
It would be very fun. Okay, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back with some more questions for Dr. Tarbox. And there was something else I was going to bring up, and I know what it is. We had a question that came in. They actually wanted me to ask Dr. Doreen, but it came in too late. They want to know, when is the Center for Autism and Related Disorders book going to be released? And I thought you might be a person to ask that. So when we come back, we'll answer that, and there's another question that came in as well. So stick with us.
Hi, welcome to Camp Discovery, a free-to-play suite of fun, interactive learning games for kids 2 and up, designed by experts in autism. Camp Discovery will open your early learner to a world of new skills, shapes, numbers, colors, locations, emotions, and more. Let's get started.
Please choose a level.
Objects. First, Camp Discovery's Intelligent Preference Assessment determines your child's preferred reward for choosing correctly. Okay, got it. Let's play. Camp Discovery creates a motivating learning environment for your child by minimizing incorrect responses and maximizing successful ones.
Find the shoes.
Respond correctly and your child is rewarded with their favorite animations.
You did it.
Respond incorrectly, and our unique prompting system guides your child to the correct answer by making it the largest choice.
That's not it. Try again. Way to go.
Continue to answer correctly, and the size gradually reduces until the child makes the correct choice independently.
You win.
Success! Rewards motivate learning. Complete a round, and your child is rewarded with a fun mini-game. Track your child's progress with easy-to-read graphs. Multiple settings options allow you to customize Camp Discovery to your child's unique needs. All this in one single app, the Camp Discovery app, available for free on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon Store.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, the head of research and development at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders and the director of the Autism Research Group. Love having him here. He's answering your questions right now live. We had a question that came in about wanting to know when the Center for Autism and Related Disorders book is going to be released.
Right. Well, thank you very much for asking. I appreciate the interest in our book. So we turned it into the publisher in March, and we've been doing proofreading of the proofs. So after they get the book from the authors, they put it all into one enormous 550-page PDF, and then we have to go back through and comb through every single detail, try to find any errors or any mistakes. So we're done with all of that. It's back into the publisher now, and the publisher is telling us that it will be out in August.
Wow.
So we'll see.
That's really soon.
That's what we're hoping for.
That's amazing. And of course, we'll be updating you about that here as well. Now, we had another question that came in. The person says, my son was diagnosed at 2. He received services through the regional center until he turned 3, which is a very common thing in the state of California. Then I got him card for 40 hours for the last 8 months. He is learning a great deal, but still behind in a lot of areas. I didn't send him to school this year, but I don't see ABA covering things that can help him when he goes to school. I'm a bit concerned because I keep bringing it up in clinic, but it seems not that important. My son has center-based 5 hours a day, and then at home I drop him off in one room and come back to pick him up in the same room. And they go on to say the center doesn't have a variety of toys. Shannon talked about functional play. The center doesn't even have a doll. What is he learning in that 5 hours other than cars and Legos? I provide a bag of toys, but no one seems to open it. I send coloring books and no one uses it. I'm so scared that he's not learning everything he needs to.
Right.
So I would think then he's younger than 4 because they started at 3 and it's 8 months later. So wonderful that you've gotten 40 hours, the right age to do that.
The right amount of treatment at the right age.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
But I can relate to, and I think a lot of parents have this, that you see, you wait and you hope and you pray and work to get the funding, and then it starts, and you know what you want, and they start working on something else, and you go, what are we doing?
Right.
It took me a full year before I could see what was happening. Full year. But I was worried that whole year. Until I could look back and go, oh my gosh, look at how far we've come. But also, what I'm also hearing here is this parent feeling as though they've got this concern, and there are certain things that it seems like she really wants this child to learn.
Right.
Can't she go to the clinic and say, this may not be your priority, but it's my priority?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And so we always encourage the parents of the kids that we work with to have their opinions and their needs voiced openly, and we want to know what you want to do with your kid. And you know, that it's never my way or the highway, or, you know, it's never one way or the other. It's always a team. It should be a team effort with parents' input, the supervisor's input at some point, and there's going to be an IEP, there'll be a special ed teacher's input, etc. But yeah, there's no reason why your needs shouldn't be met. That doesn't mean they're going to do everything that you want exactly,
right.
But you should get at least a reasonable explanation for why, you know, maybe something like this, like, yeah, that is an important skill, but here's this other skill that's even more foundational. So we need to work on this first, and when we get this skill mastered, then we can work on that one, right? There should be some kind of logical, sort of strategic explanation for why some skills are targeted as a priority over other skills. And your supervisor should indeed know which skills are the most important for transitioning into a typical preschool classroom, and they should be working on those skills if your child needs them. And so, yeah, it should be a give and take, you know. But also, I do want to validate that it is also very normal to have that fear and that anxiety of, is my child learning everything they need to learn? I mean, that is, like you said, that is the experience for parents in an ABA program, especially the first year or two. So it's always a balance of addressing your concerns, but also not letting your fear over those issues sort of take control over the whole experience that you have as a parent, right? Because there's lots of other things you want to focus on too, in addition to concern over whether or not your child is learning everything they need to learn.
I would almost go so far as to say, well, you're right on track. That's exactly what anybody would be feeling at this moment in time, because it seems so overwhelming, the things that they need to get caught up on to get there in kindergarten. And we did a video. You can look for it on YouTube. It's of my son, and it's called ABA: The Autism Miracle in Our Living Room, and it was about that period of time going up to kindergarten. Because I did not think we were going to get him caught up by kindergarten. I was told by the school we weren't going to get him caught up by kindergarten. It was just like, that's not going to happen. Or at the worst, I was told, well, that would be really difficult. And yet, that's exactly what did happen. But can I tell you that he didn't get all the way caught up to be at kindergarten until the week before kindergarten. And I was, it was like a cliffhanger. I was, biting the nails and going, are we going to be ready? Are we going to be ready? And he was. But he was ready the week before, not 6 months before.
Right.
And it's fascinating to me now. I can look back and go, oh, look at how that all unfolded beautifully, like, a beautiful storybook. But I was a nervous wreck the whole time. And, it's one of the reasons why I love the A word. Because if I don't know, if I had been able to look and see the progression, that I would have had a better understanding, and I'd like to think I could have had a little bit of a worryectomy.
Yeah, maybe. But at the same time, though, you'd still worry, well, okay, is my son making that same progression as the kid on the video?
Exactly, because all kids are different.
It's just normal to feel that fear and that anxiety. And it's also normal and critical to voice your needs to your child's supervisor.
Absolutely. And even, you cite specifically about the crayons, because there are a whole bunch of skills in order to be successful at coloring. Not that you can't color at any point, but they might be working on other things to get him to the point where that when he does color, he'll find it reinforcing.
Right.
So ask the questions, be vocal, make sure that you let them know what your priorities are, and ask why. If that doesn't seem to be their priority, are they working towards it?
Right. And there's a good strategy for that, because a lot of parents feel so grateful that their kid's finally getting treatment that they kind of don't want to cause any trouble, right?
Yeah.
I doubt that was your problem ever, but
I would think about it. I would go ahead, but I would think about it.
Okay.
Believe me, in the early days, I was convinced that I had alienated you personally so badly that you would never speak to me again.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But no, so a lot of parents feel like, okay, I'm so grateful. I don't want to cause any trouble. I don't want the ABA supervisor to be mad at me, or to think I'm one of those crazy parents, or to be frustrated with me, right?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, you have to speak up, and it's just a critical piece of it. And it's not, again, it's not one or the other. It's not either let the supervisor do whatever he wants, or you have to be really harsh and crazy and really demanding.
Yeah.
It's both. It's appreciate your supervisor for what they're doing. And a great trick is anytime you're doing any kind of staff training or motivational stuff, you need to find something that the person is doing that you appreciate, that you genuinely appreciate, and praise them for it. Show that you really appreciate it, and also give them the honest feedback that they need, right? So, find something that your kid's supervisor is doing extremely well that you really appreciate, and tell them that and let them know. And in the same conversation say, in addition, I really need you to focus on these other skills, and or give me an explanation why we're not doing it now, but we're going to do it soon.
Great advice, because sometimes that is so dicey.
And people hold it in. They feel like, well, I'm not going to complain until I can't take it anymore, and then they explode.
Right.
But that's not the point. It's not either be nice or give critical feedback.
Right.
It's always do both. Always do both.
And can I tell you that for women, I think it's, in particular, very hard for women, because we feel like if we speak up, then suddenly we're the Bubba Witch. You know what I'm saying, right? And that I always say to my husband, I only have two speeds. I'm either the nice guy, or I have to get angry for somebody to listen to me. And it's hard to find that. But so I'm going to use that later on today. So praise them for the thing that they're doing right, and then say, but here's what I need. In a very nice and calm way.
And honestly, isn't that how you would like to be interacted with?
Of course.
If there's someone that needs something from you, wouldn't you like them to give you genuine appreciation?
Yes.
And ask you for what they want from you? I mean,
Yes.
that's just a good way for humans to treat each other.
It is, absolutely. I love.
And it works.
And that on top of everything else, I love the fact that we talk about ABA, and it's not just for dealing with individuals with autism. It's for the one day that you came in and gave us the whole talk about the whole meaning of this is to try to make the world a better place.
Right, exactly.
Love it. I want to get that crocheted on a pillow. In any case, we're pretty much out of time, but I want to thank Dr. Tarbox for being here and for taking the time to come in 2 times in 1 week.
No problem.
We have an embarrassment of riches this week because you were here. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back to finish out the show. And for those of you who are looking for employment, I have one of our offices is hiring therapists. And so I want to let you know about which office that is and let you know what the job is if it's something that you're interested in. They put out a call to us and said, can you help us? We need some staff. And I know that there are probably some people out there who are interested in potentially doing that. So stick with us. We're going to come back and talk about a job opportunity. We'll be right back.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The Skills Assessment and Curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes Skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The Skills Assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the Skills Assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here at the end of the week, at the end of the show. I want to take a quick second that the CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders office in Alexandria, Virginia, has put out a call to us to let you know that they are currently hiring therapists and they would love some people applying. So here are some of the experience and qualifications. You must have an experience and or an interest in working with children. A minimum of 6 months experience with the developmentally disabled population is preferred. You must have a high school diploma. That is a requirement. A bachelor's degree or near completion of degree in the related field is preferred. You have to have the ability to work a minimum of 20 hours a week, reliable transportation with proof of auto insurance, proficiency with Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, no past criminal history, and they will do an FBI check, and you must pass a tuberculosis test. There are a bunch more different things having to do with the job, but it is a beginning therapist. If you are interested, please send your resume and or questions to r.sanchez, R as in Robert, .sanchez, S-A-N-C-H-E-Z at centerforautism.com. If you didn't catch that, you can also message us and we'll make sure that you get that. I hope that there are some good potential therapists out there that will please apply. That is in Alexandria, Virginia, which means it services the Washington, D.C. area as well. Don't forget that on Tuesday, Steve Malden from CBS is going to be with us talking about Stephanie's Day and his inspiration, his beautiful, beautiful daughter. And we've got quite the week planned for you next week. I hope that you guys will be with us next week. Until then, I hope that you have a wonderful weekend and that you take it to heart and try to find some fun. Summer is upon us. If we don't have fun now, when will we, right? So appreciate it. Have some fun. I thank you for being with us this entire week and with us always. And check out our videos on YouTube. Share them when you want. Please give your kiddos a hug for me and one for you as well. Bye-bye for now.